And we are live. And
Hello.
so far we have like 10 people.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, now it says 7, but
Fives and tens of people.
yeah.
Fives and tens of people, y'all.
Fives and tens of people. Hello, everybody. Welcome back, Pixel Nation. Comix Division here and friends.
Hello.
Hello.
So, everybody, introduce yourselves.
Ladies first.
Well, I am just a Feisty fan. I am new to the internets.
Aren't we all?
I'm new to the internets, y'all. Teach me how to shout to internets. No, I started really getting involved in the whole, not comics geek, I guess wanting better comics, since I saw there's other people out there that actually want good comics. So I'm not really like, I don't know, I'm not that special or anything. I'm just like, hey, I'm leftist, but I'm not crazy, and I want good comics. So here I am. And I work in a shop.
That was pretty funny. There was a comment I saw about an hour ago, and it was someone complaining about conservatives wanting comics and blah, blah, blah. And I replied back to her, and I was like, I'm a centrist, okay? I'm slightly left of center. I'm consider myself a centrist. I'm by no means a conservative. And yeah, not all of us are conservatives. I don't even know if the majority of us are conservative. I do think that there is a pretty strong vocal conservative element, but I don't think that's the majority. I mean, I have no idea. I don't know what the fucking demographics are.
I know that we're not all racists.
Yes,
so, or Nazis, or yeah. So it's like,
Sorry, and over to you. I kind of interrupted the intros.
That's okay. My name is Gary Beekler. I am from the Nerdrotic channel, and I've been doing the channel for a little over a year, seriously, and we recap TV. We really don't cover comics, but a year ago, like many of you, saw a couple of videos. I decided, to get back into comics. I had sold my store and gotten out of it, so I went to YouTube to see the lay of the land. And I came across Diversity in Comics, World Class Bullshitters video. Then I found Captain Comic, Doug Ernst. And through that, I found I Love Comics and Comix Division. And I found this cool community who, like Feisty just said, wants good comics. And I was very excited about that because I saw a lot of this coming down the road right before I sold my store. I never thought it would get this bad as far as quality of writing and quality of books. But it was, and also that your videos are very entertaining, and again, it's a great group. Yeah, no, it's fun. I watch this more than I watch TV. I watch you, and I watch I Love Comics, and all you guys, and I love the chat. Yeah, it's a good group of people. So, who want better comics?
Agreed.
Jinx, oh man.
Yeah, and it's
I'm juvenile, sorry.
I started my channel because of Diversity in Comics. It's something I thought about doing for quite some time, like years ago. And for a while, I ran a podcast. I'm not going to talk about that. It was terrible. And then we did it for I guess 3-4 months, and traveling kind of got in the way of things, and it was a mess, but it was fun. And so I stopped, and I drifted out of comics briefly. I was still collecting. I just really wasn't reading. So I kind of missed all the craziness that was going on within Marvel. It was pretty funny. I saw the Mockingbird cover, and I didn't read her T-shirt. I just wasn't paying attention. And it wasn't until like a year later, I was like, holy shit, that's on a fucking comic book cover? And then I started reading some stuff, and I started really picking up the social justice vibe off of stuff. And I was just like, wow, this is not good. Marvel, you're doing lots of things that are pissing me off. The number one thing was getting rid of digital copies. That pissed me off. And then the quality I started noticing was just turning completely to shit. So I started watching Diversity in Comics, Captain Cummings, I Love Comics. And I was inspired enough to go and shit out my opinion like everybody else and want to talk about comic books. So here we are today.
So here we are. No, and that's not an easy thing to do. Doing a channel is not easy. It's a lot of work, and you got to, you keep your videos going. And, I try to do a few a week. I've dabbled in the comic book thing a little bit. I don't know. I've been kind of chicken. I'll admit it. Just because I know a couple people on the other side. I don't want to lose friends. I just, you know, everything I would have said is what you guys have said. It would have just been echoing anyway, and it was too late at that time. So I was just happy to be a part of just, you know, commenting once in a while and chatting once in a while. I've done a couple of videos, but nothing exciting. But what you guys doing is important. It is really important. And then I guess that's why we're here talking today, because, you know, I don't see retailers with YouTube channels, which,
that's exactly another reason why I'm kind of like, I don't know that I would start a channel so much more as being a guest, mostly because I know pros, people within my community, you know, I'm trying to remain, kind of keep that anonymous. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I don't, you know, so that's why I'm kind of staying as anonymous as possible. So, but I want to let you know, but I want a voice from the retailer standpoint to be heard. So that's why another reason why I kind of joined in the discussion. So.
Very cool. And real quick, hey, everybody in the comments, welcome. Englentine, Mackany, Spike, thank you guys for all showing up. Everybody out there, American Swordfish, Commander North, and others.
What's up, everybody?
So we're getting some people in, so I guess we can go ahead and start really kind of kicking things off. And I guess what are you seeing as a retailer? What is going on? I mean, I talked to my local comic book guy, and you know, we have conversations about stuff. And the thing I've noticed about the place where I shop, it's probably 1/4 comics, and everything else is like toys, games, collectible cards, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems like, I mean, I remember back in the 90s when I walk into a comic shop, it was just freaking comics and some collectible stuff. Now it's just, that seems to be a very small portion.
It does. There's always been diversification in shops, like you said, but it's never, I recently, it was just in California, but I went to 6 shops down in Palm Springs, down in SoCal. Then I checked out some of the ones I haven't seen in the Bay Area recently. And other than A1 Comics, which is kind of a monster in Sacramento, he's got like 4 stores and he's doing great. Everybody seems a lot smaller. And the 2 shops I went to in Palm Springs were really disorganized. And you know, you can putter along in a comic shop if you just keep your ordering down and just stay kind of average. You can go a long way, even through the hard times. But what the main thing I noticed, and it was through a couple videos I watched, I kept an eye out for the big boxes of quarter books that said, I saw one that was Secret Wars, the recent Secret Wars and Civil War II. And then I saw one with Legacy, and these are like 3 long boxes of quarter books of modern books and the Legacies weren't even that old. How old are they? A couple months, maybe 3 months. And it's dire times now. You know, I don't own a shop now, so I don't know how bad it really is. I can tell from the outside perspective, and I guess Feisty would be better to ask on like what's going on now. But the Marvel has brought the industry down. I mean, it is what it is. It's what everybody's been saying, and they've been denying it for years, or not years, months. But you know,
it's become very apparent. So Feisty, what's your kind of take on it?
So what was it? So 2014-ish is when I started shopping at the shop I work at now. So, you know, I was kind of Original Sin had just started. Amazing Spider-Man just came back off of being you know, Superior Spider-Man. I actually had to go back and re-pick up the whole run because I'm a collector and I'm an OCD person, so I have to have every issue. It's all got to be first print, blah blah blah. But seeing the amount of back issues and just how, I don't know if it was speculation or if it was you know, the high, because actually I'm in the Marvel Secret Retailer group too, so I see all the behind the stuff too, where a group of retailers actually talk to you know, head of sales. Everyone knows who it is. I'm not going to say the name just because, but
Right.
so, you know, but seeing the amount of issues, not just for poolers, but for what they speculated for the rack. Sorry, it's crazy because you have all these. You know, how are you going to move this product if there's no hype for it? When Marvel promises, oh, this is going to be bigger and better than the last time. I mean, they had good momentum, because I managed to really get into the Secret Wars, and being a collector too, I was like, yeah, get me all the tie-ins. So I was getting like maybe 15 to 20 books a week while Secret Wars was going. And this was before I started working there. But they had amazing momentum with where the direction they were taking it. A lot of people in the store were excited. You know, the art, the quality of the books were great. And then all new, all different happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, but since then, you know, seeing a stack of, you know, stuff moved when that was going on, when Secret Wars was happening. I was seeing, you know, people shop off the rack more. This is just me being a customer. But, you know, then when I started working there, at the aftermath of like the all new, all different, and then what was the next one they did, Legacy, it's just like, okay, what you guys have had two, like within a year, there have been 2 books, or almost every issue you put out #1s. Like, what's the deal? Like, what's going on? So bringing back and being more conservative of order, especially with Legacy. You know, my shop owner bought into the whole hype that Marvel was putting out, went super deep with Legacy, saying, okay, this is, you know, okay, this looks cool. Maybe, you know, it'll pick up traction. Maybe the people that are waiting in the wings to start recollecting. But hearing the groaning and hearing the moaning from customers and talking to other people like, oh God, Marvel, oh, not another one, oh, another event, you know, just hearing that, it's like really disheartening, because I don't know where, but yeah, but that's where I've seen it. It's just, you know, these empty promises and these new relaunches and new branding. It's like, you already have the brand. You don't need to rebrand yourself. You need to put out quality work.
Right.
That's
really quickly. I want to read a comment from Mega Gears X, and also if you guys want me to read a comment, just, you know, tag Comix Division so I can. Typically just kind of skim stuff. I don't always pay attention to the comics, but if you want to bring something to my attention, please tag me. I'll say, let's see, too many books and events, along with them being too expensive. They need to have tiers such as $3 and $4 books.
That would be a start. I think you guys have talked about it a couple streams ago. I think just getting the comics cheaper, finding a way. And when you have these $3.99 books, they got to be $3.99 quality. That used to matter a little bit. It doesn't anymore. Some of the garbage they're putting out, I mean, sometimes, yeah, an annual kind of sucked, but you know, now it's just the norm to do $3.99, and it's bad. It's so bad, and I've never seen it this bad. When I jumped into writing to reading again, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, what the hell happened? Where did my comic industry go?
Right.
They started writing for headlines, you know. And I apologize if I've repeated things that you've heard on these channels before, but
no,
I mean, those are the facts. Those are the facts.
I think they need to be repeated sometimes.
Yeah, and Feisty, when did you notice? So after all new, all different, how soon did you notice that not working? Was it prior to Legacy, or was it right when Legacy hit? Or
it was Legacy? A little bit before. So like with all new, all different, that because I jumped on with okay, for instance, me being a Mary Jane Watson fan, she wasn't being written in ASM. So I heard, you know, Bendis was like, oh, we've got MJ. I'm like, okay, cool. So I started with that, you know, and actually that run wasn't pretty bad, especially the first 5-6 issues with, you know, David Marquez, Justin Ponsor, which if you guys have not donated or I have not heard, he is in renal failure. He's got cancer. If you can find his GoFundMe, please donate. He needs all the help he can get. One of my favorite colorists in the industry.
I did a video about it, so I know that a couple of us have already donated.
Yeah.
So you can, if you go, you don't have to watch the video. You can watch it if you want. It's only like 45 seconds. but at least go to the GoFundMe and help donate, because
$1, $5, anything helps you guys.
Cancer sucks. I mentioned this in the video. My dad and a really good friend of mine died from cancer, and I saw the impact firsthand of what cancer had on my friend and his family. And luckily, you know, he got a Kickstarter going, and they were able to help offset the payments of his treatment, because it ends up being like $50,000.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
easy
expensive.
minimum. And he was in stage 4, so it's not like, yeah, there's any coming back. It's he's going to die at some point, and that's exactly what happened. So please help out, do what you can.
Sorry, I had to plug that.
No,
I actually was telling
thank
customers
you,
about that too.
Yeah,
So
I appreciate it.
so yeah, so I got in on that run, but then when they relaunched it a second time, having it being like Invincible Iron Man, but having Ironheart be the front and center, we went from maybe 25 on the rack to maybe 2 or 3 copies. Like, it's just, people took it off their pull lists. It wasn't Iron Man wasn't selling as much as it used to. Spider-Man wasn't selling as much. But with Thor, I think it was handled a little better with it, so that actually still sold pretty well. It just depends on the writer, I guess, and the way they're tendering the characters and the content that they're putting out. So I actually read Mockingbird. I didn't mind it so much, but it did have a corgi in it, so that's the reason why I bought it.
Okay, so you were being asked by American Swordfish, how many comics do you read a month?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, fuck. Okay, let's just say I have about 26 books on my pull, but I can library stuff on Tuesdays when I do polls and stuff. So I'm reading probably 15 to 30 a week, depending on. So I read a lot. So you do the maths.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to sell a book if you've read it. Or I'll flip through it and kind of like read a couple pages just if I don't have time. I play Dungeons and Dragons, I paint miniatures, I have a life outside of my work and reading comics. So but yeah, I read quite a bit of books a month. So,
and Alexis, I've noted your comment. It's something I already have on my list of questions, so we'll get to it.
But no, but definitely in the since I started work, so when I started working there about 1.5 years, things were okay. It was healthy. It was okay. But then 6 months later, people started pulling, Marvel off their pulls more. We started selling less, but luckily, I'm really into technology. So when I found out that my boss was not utilizing, digitalizing pull lists to order, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? This is dumb. You're ordering less or you're ordering more. And so that actually helped a lot with ordering the correct amount of books. So if there's any other retailers out there, digitalize your pull list so you know your subscribing numbers so you don't over order. So that's a good way to be conservative with ordering as well. So
yeah, that's something that my shop does. They have everything digitally, which is very nice. It makes things easier. But there are certain things I've noticed that where you have, everyone jokes about thick stacks, and Marvel seems to have the most thick stacks, and DC seems to sell a lot.
Do you want to take this, Nerdrotic?
Yeah, thick stacks on why there's thick stacks. Sure. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry.
Go ahead.
We're finished.
No, I know where you're going with it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, with Marvel, it was just all the lenticulars, all the incentive covers that they kind of forced the retailers to buy, and they always spin it to where, hey, this is helping you. You can mark up this book, and it'll take care of all the prices of the books you bought. And so some of those stacks are paid for. Okay, that's a fact. Like with when Superior Spider-Man came out, God, I sold so many of that, and I don't know why, but I did. And yeah, all my stacks were paid for, but some are not. I can't imagine. I mean, the lenticular covers for Legacy were pretty cool. I got I think the Spirits of Vengeance one or something because it had Ghost Rider on it. But yeah, they must have been just. The speculation on that one must have been bad. I can only imagine. I wasn't there. I don't know how I would have dealt with it. I don't know how I would have dealt with any of the crap the last 3 years, to be honest with you. But Marvel's, Marvel stacks. I used to never have those. Never. I would sell out all the time. You were talking about Invincible Iron Man. When I started my store in 2003, Iron Man was, I had 8 Iron Man subscribers, and then the movie hit, and then it started selling at X-Men levels. Now, was that because of the movie, or was it because of Warren Ellis and Matt Fraction? Probably because of Warren Ellis and Matt Fraction.
God, Matt Fraction's amazing.
And Brubaker on Captain America, which again was selling. I had 7 subscribers. Then Brubaker gets on Captain America, and it's selling better than X-Men books, and it's selling out consistently. And when I sold the store, I had 150 Cap subscribers. So, yeah, so the stacks are largely the incentive covers. I would imagine. I don't know where you're going with the question. Sorry, I interrupted. So.
I can add to that too.
Well, I know a lot of it has to do. Sorry, Feisty, I cut you off.
Oh no.
I know a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's like if you order X number of books, you get this variant, and therefore you can mark it up and sell it. And that's one of the things I talked to my comic shop guy about, is that he's like, he talks to the owner all the time. It's like, we don't need to do this. People aren't going to fucking buy these covers. They can get them online much cheaper than they can through the shop, but they still fucking do it. And that's the reason why you have these large stacks of Squirrel Girl or whatever, is because they get this special variant cover for X-Men by ordering so many issues of Squirrel Girl, and they try and sell it for like 20-30 bucks.
Yeah, and then it pumps up the Squirrel Girl comic sales, and they, which didn't help at all. And it's underhanded completely. Excuse me. How they do that, how they manipulate sales. Marvel's been doing that for years. That's weird. I thought that would change when Disney bought them, but nothing changed. This is a company that got sued by retailers. You might have heard this, Feisty. About 12 years ago. I actually got some of the money from this class action lawsuit.
Good.
Yeah, right? It was like $400, but I took it. What Marvel was not giving retailers credit on their returns. They just decided they didn't want to do it anymore. And it broke the agreement with Diamond, and the guy who bought my store, Brian Hibbs, who's still retailing. He's an old school retailer, been around for 30 plus years. Used to work with Rory Root at Comic Relief, Comic History. But yeah, he sued him. He and beat him, and got every comic shop $400 or $500. Made him very popular for a little while. So, and that's what led him to start Comics Pro. I don't know if you guys have heard of Comics Pro, but it's an organization of retailers, and it was originally founded to kind of not be a union, but to be one voice. So we could but the problem is, like, comic shop retailers don't agree on shit. They're all very different. So it didn't do what it was supposed to do, which was to kind of take on Diamond and Marvel and DC and say, hey, we're not going to put up with this shit anymore. Excuse me for my cussing on your channel. Sorry.
Dude, this is my channel. Come on, man. I will be disappointed if you don't say fuck, okay?
All right. Well, fuck these guys. No, fuck Marvel. And they were supposed to. Comics Pro was a major disappointment. I was there at the beginning, and you pay dues like a union. And then DC kind of came in, and then Diamond came in and kind of circumvented it and started buying some retailers out. And it just turned it into another retail summit as opposed to Comics Pro. So sorry, I went on a vent, but yeah.
Oh, you're fine.
So if you hear about Comics Pro, and they started with good intentions, but they haven't done much, in my opinion. So,
by the way, that umbrella guy just accused us of manterruption.
Oh, I don't care.
Jokingly, of course.
I apologize.
God. Jeez.
All right, back over to you, Feisty.
Another thing I want to add to the whole thick stacks is DC. I think I don't know the exact term, but isn't it what strips where DC will buy back anything you speculate? Like if you, for Rebirth, for instance, people, a lot of retailers went really deep, but then they had like all these extra stuff. So, DC would be like, hey, you can return these, rip off your front cover, send those back, do what you will with the rest of the comic. So not only, does DC not penalize you for speculating large, but, happens to be that Rebirth was actually a good thing for DC. Like a lot of, that's what I'm hearing. But that's what DC does. If you speculate on heavy on an issue, say like what was the most recent, like with White Knight, right, like it's already in its 4th or 5th print, but if you went too deep and you couldn't sell it, then you would be able to rip off the front cover, send it in, and they would give you some kind of like, it's not the full amount of the book, but it's a percentage, but at least you would get some money back for taking the plunge and ordering deep. So but with Marvel, they don't give you shit. So yeah, so that's another reason why you don't see too many thick stacks of Rebirth, because, you know, we actually can send the covers back and get some kind of return. Either Diamond will discount your next order, or you'll get a credit, but yeah, that's how they take care of the retailers.
That's good.
DC's always been nicer to the retailers. That goes way back from the Bob Wayne days when he was around. He was an old retailer himself, and he was kind of what David Gabriel is now, but better and you know, nicer. And yeah, that's what I on another video I did. That's what I suggested Marvel should do instead of this fresh start crap. You put your money where your mouth is and make everything returnable, or like Feisty said, a percentage. Do something besides a goddamn freaking lenticular cover that doesn't even match what's in the damn book. You know, God, I sound like an old man right there. Get off my lawn. But
but okay, real quick. Gabe has a comment. I think I said Dave. Gabe has a comment. What do you guys think of Diamond's new pull box thing? I think it is Diamond laying the groundwork to cut out the local comic book shops, and because of their own store. I haven't heard anything about this.
I haven't heard. That's news to me.
Yeah, that's the thing. I actually, yes, I know about this. And so I read the article. I was, my jaw hit the ground. I could not believe it. Now, the side, basically, they want to start a pull box. They want to start an online retailing service, to nutshell it. And it makes sense in the fact that there is now large areas of America with no comic shops. So from that side, I understand. I don't know how the hell they're going to spin this to the retailers. That's going to be a fun retail summit. Wish I could be a fly on the wall for that one.
God, so I'm like going to ask my new bosses if I can go. I'm like, can I go? I want to go to this.
You definitely have to go to a retail summit. They're great. It can be a lot of fun. They used to do them in Vegas, which was a good time.
Ooh.
But yeah, now they do in Baltimore. It's like, come on. Sorry, no offense to Baltimore, but it's not Vegas.
No, I've been to Baltimore. Baltimore is interesting.
Baltimore. It's the Wire. No. So yeah, they want to start an online. So the first thing they're competing with is they're competing with what they like to call the comic shops their business partners, but they're actually customers. Okay, to the point where they send a guy named Dave out. I don't know if Dave's still around. I don't know if you met Dave. I don't know if he's still around, but he used to come around and try to sell you stuff instead of like talk about your concerns with Diamond. And they want to cut out the online retailers because that's direct competition right there. So I don't know why they're doing this. I think they're to try to spin it positive. They're thinking as we're trying to get comics out to more people, which I'm behind, but like, how about putting them back in 7-Elevens? How about finding another way to get them out there?
Spinner racks.
Spinner racks.
Yes.
God, I bought my first comic off a spinner rack. 25 cents. Marvel Team Up number 42. I'll never forget it. Spider-Man and Vision fought like an evil pilgrim with Dr. Doom in the 1600s. It was wacky tale.
I bought my first comic book shop from a 7-Eleven. It was G.I. Joe. I want to say it was like number 3 or 4, but
that's awesome.
That is great.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was like God, I want to say 70s or 80s. I don't remember when the book came out.
Early 80s.
93, yeah. Wolverine number 67. And I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter, but I actually found a copy of that because it was missing from my volume 2 run, and I found it, and I was at the comic shop and I got all teary-eyed. I'm like, oh my God, this is my first comic. Yeah, it was a sight.
Okay. So this one thing I've been wanting to ask, and this kind of leads into what Alexis was asking, is women in comic shops, specifically women and children, people from different ethnic groups. You know, I want to say, what is the percentage? I don't know if you guys know the numbers or not, but statistically, what are you seeing when it comes to male, female, black, white, Asian, whatever, coming in and buying books? Is it primarily just white dudes? Do you have a good mix of people?
Oh yeah, I have a great mix of people. Two of our I think they're two of our biggest pullers, and we run this information at the end of the year and give them like a $75 gift card for the shop. Are women. So two of the I used to be one of them, but now that
I'm sorry, what was that number again?
What, $75?
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, well, for Christmas, we'll give them a $75 gift card because they're buying like 30 to 40 books a month or sometimes a week, if that, you know what I mean? Like, but our two biggest pullers are women. For every 8 men that come in our store, 2 to 3 women come in. A lot of people choose our location to bring in their own kids for the first time. Fortunately, we have an amazing Yelp page. So a lot of people, oh, I found you on Yelp. So we're, everyone has to compete with our shop. So that's we have the one up in that. But we all walks of people that are like on a conservative budget, people that don't care, that are just buying whatever. But as far as, you know, we have 2 to 3 trans customers. You know, like every walk of life comes in our shop. So yeah, we're lucky enough to where it's like I don't really notice it. Everyone to me is just a comic fan, so I'm excited to talk to anybody about a comic that we both like. So, but I am the hype woman, so there you go.
No, that's so. They're lucky to have you. They really are. My store was only as good as myself and my manager, and my manager was like he was just a hype machine. He was so good. I was lucky to have really good employees. For my store, so you just to ask a follow-up to Comix Division. So you don't really notice. You don't notice a majority. It's just comic fans.
Yeah, I mean, I take notice,
I mean,
but it doesn't like that's not in my forefront of like, oh my god, what, you know, like, I'm tired of seeing It's like I'm just excited to see people in the store. I don't care who they are. I just want people in our store.
You're basically a normal person. That's good. That's really good.
I treat people like people. Imagine that.
Wow. Imagine that. Treating people like people. What a fucking foreign concept in 2018.
I know, right? This is ridiculous. With my store, I was in San Francisco, right next to San Francisco State. So majority male, female percentage grew from 0% to like 20%. I had my 2 kids in there growing up, so it became like the kids store in San Francisco. The second day I owned the shop, I got rid of the porn section and just got rid of, because nothing against Magic or D&D at all. I only had so much space in San Francisco, so I decided to specialize purely in comic books. That's what I knew, so I'm going to go with my strength. And I made a kids section. So mine was the kid-friendly superhero store in San Francisco, and we had everything. We had everything here. It's you know, it's a very diverse neighborhood. I would say if there was a majority, it was Filipino, because I'm close to Daly City. I don't know if you guys are Filipino best people, as DNC says, and they are. That I was close to Daly City, which has a large Filipino population, and yeah, I had like 5 or 6 subs who got one of every Marvel title and every DC title, which was I mean, every time they came in, it was wonderful. And they actually read them, which was amazing. The one thing you find out when you own a comic store is, I thought my knowledge was okay. I never thought I was, you know, Mr. Comic Book or anything like that. But I got schooled rather quickly by customers. Customers would come in and correct me on stuff. So yeah, I learned to be humble. And what Feisty said, you got to be a carnival barker for your store, but in a very genuine way. You got to be nice. Feisty mentioned it in the chat last time we were talking. She said, you know, nice sells comic books, and it does every single time. And it's surprising even today. Comic shop owners are much better today than they used to be. They used to be pretty bad, to be honest with you. Retailers did their own themselves in for a while, you know, because they were just like the comic book shop guy.
Yeah, they were like the comic book guy from The Simpsons. I never ran into that. I noticed a huge difference from like the 90s and now, where most comic shops I went to, most of the time, if not all the time, it was dudes in there. There's this one shop. I don't know if it's still around. It was called The Dungeon. There was like one chick that worked there. Rest of it was dudes. Most time in there was guys. Now is pretty different. When I walk in, I know that 2 of the employees of my shop, I think there may be 3 or 4, are female, and there's usually 2 of them there. I don't really pay attention, honestly, about who's going in. I just never really cared to try and figure out what the demographic was. Because I live in Texas, specifically the heart of Texas, most of the people there are white or Hispanic. Occasionally there's a black guy in there, but that's pretty few and far between. Most of the employees, I would say, are probably Hispanic. There's a couple guys that are white that work there as well. So that's the demographic of my shop as far as the people that work there. Most of the people in there, like I said, white or Hispanic.
Yeah, and normal. That's what they are. The place I noticed the big change was Comic-Con. So Comic-Con is it used to be a really fun thing, and it's kind of not anymore.
Yep, that's why I don't go anymore.
Yeah, so you've been, so you know,
yeah,
when girls started going to Comic-Con and they weren't booth babes, it happened about 15 years ago. It started changing.
That's when I started going.
Yep, that's when it opened up, and you know, it was only 8 years ago where you could still walk up and get a ticket. You could just walk up. You'd have to wait in a pretty long line, but an hour later you were in the con. Then the fire marshal came and put caps on it, and it all changed in Hollywood and blah blah blah. But that's when I noticed things changing. That was prior to me owning a store. The store I shopped at before I owned one was female owned, and it was like the only one I knew of in California, and she was in San Diego. She's hanging on, but her store is one of those stores that's in trouble right now, and she's been around for 27 years. So she's not dumb at this. And that's what led me to do a video and kind of pissed me off, because you know, when stores go out of business, 90% of the time it's the business owner. You know, I think it's different now with so many going out of business, and it's not like it was 2008. You know, that's the crisis we have right now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We have Alamo City Comic Con, which starting off, I guess people didn't realize how big of an event it was going to be. It sold out and it was packed. And they were the first year they were basically telling people to go away because of how packed it was. I think I went the second year is when I started going, and it got big and big, and then it shrank down the last 2 years. And I don't know if it was because of just like booking the convention center or whatnot, but it wasn't as big as it was like 3 years ago, where they basically had the entire convention center rented out, and you had this huge artist alley, and it was fucking insane. It was beautiful, and there was just a wide variety of people. It was fun. It was so much fun. I got to meet Larry Hama that year.
Oh,
that's awesome.
I love the medium cons where you can still interact with people and walk around in the hallways. So that you said it was Alamo City. Who was that owned by? Was that Wizard or
I don't know. It's actually locally started. I don't remember who started it. I don't know the guy's name.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah, but it's locally started. It's not and I think it quickly became one of the largest cons outside of San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah. Which you can't say Comic-Con now. Englentine did a video on that.
No, I don't think that they didn't win.
They didn't. I thought they won. No. Oh, I'm glad. That's good. That's good news.
So we have a question here. It's like, what comics are mostly avoided? And this kind of leads into, I had a question already kind of queued up. What's popular? What's selling at your store, Feisty? And what comics do you guys avoid?
Well, like I said, so I tell people, well, okay, so what I do at the beginning of the month is I take previews home, both Marvel and that big I call it the Bible. I will read it. So what I do is I draw a bath, I get some good music going, and I sit there for an hour reading the previews book from cover to cover. And I take notice of anything that strikes my eye or anything that I know a customer would like. So like I said, I hyped up White Knight for 2 months before it came out. So we had, I think, 50 to 60 pre-orders for that book. So we didn't sell out. Like, my boss was like, hey, thank you for doing your job. Everyone was happy. Everybody got a copy of this book. you know, but I read it. I'm like, because I just recently started getting into Batman. I'm like, hey, this looks cool. Well, we have 75 subscribers to Batman. Guess what? Those 75 people are probably going to want another Batman book. Same thing with Metal. When I saw the premise for Metal, I hyped it up because I'm assuming that's what my boss hired me to do. You know, I'm just, at least that's what I see is like, but not only that, I'm a fan. So I read it too. I'm like, oh, cool. This might be cool. That might be cool. You know, so Metal sells very well. Anytime we get, cause what we do is get speculation on eBay. So when we see first prints, we'll buy them all out and then have them up on the wall and then they sell out. So, you know, we take advantage of getting our collectors who didn't get a chance to jump on board when it started another chance if you want a first print or not. Yeah, it's a little pricey, but we're not making that much money off of it. We're doing it for our customers. So Metal sells really well. White Knight sells really well. All of Rebirth is selling well. It's a, I don't know if it's called Rebirth anymore. Was it DC or whatever it is now, but the general things that are popular that people are doing reviews on are selling well. I got Spectacular Spider-Man when it first started because I follow Zdarsky as a writer. I'm one of those people that'll buy his book whatever he's on because if it's not good, I know it'll eventually be good. But when I read that Tuesday, when I took issue 6 home, I came in the next day and told my boss, I'm like, we need to order 20 more copies of this. This is going to be huge.
Yes, that book was great.
So, you know, so now we have more subscribers to Spectacular than we do ASM. Just because I did my dues.
Tragic.
Yeah.
It really is. But you asked, and I told. So I don't know about other stores. I can only speak for what I see going on in mine. So, but yeah, that's the general thing but people, but Ethan Van Sciver, his books have been selling, his trades have been selling. I don't really go into detail into why people want them because I don't, I don't like Prime, but I'm like, his work has been selling a lot. And then I'll just kind of laugh and they're like, what? I'm like, it's just nice to see people buy good stuff. So
hang on real quick. I got to address Third Wonder because she says tragic ? Exclamation point. Tragic in the sense that the book is so bad. It's not tragic that the fact that Slott is not selling books. It's tragic because that was like the flagship for Spider-Man, and that book is fucking garbage. I'm really happy that Zdarsky has turned that book around because initially I was like, he's such a jagoff. This is terrible. And he's like one of those guys that laughs at his own jokes. Yeah, I laugh at my own jokes, but I know they're bad. But anyway, but he's really turned that book around, and it's fucking great.
Yeah, what was it? I went to I mentioned this on another channel, but I had the wonderful experience of going to Heroes Con, which if you guys don't get a chance to, or you want to pick, like if you have the chance to go to a convention that's comic focused, not like the MCU or anything, I would highly recommend Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. You have easy access to pros. I will seriously take like a stack of 15 books that preparing for a con, see who's the guest, go through my collection, grab the books I want signed. Within like 15-20 minutes of the preview night, I have everything signed. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty much done. Now I can shop. So, but I highly recommend cons that have a good, healthy, like, comic focus. So that would be my suggestion. If you want to talk to the people that are writing or drawing or inking or coloring the books that you love, go to comic focus cons. They're a lot more fun. They're less constructed with Marvel not being there, DC not being there. Heroes Con is one of my favorite conventions. So
yeah, Alamo City is pretty good. They have a strong focus on comic books. There's other stuff too. But yeah, I mean, they actually do a pretty good job of getting good pros in, and some of them are repeats, which I like because Angel Medina is one of my favorite pros that I had an opportunity to talk to. And he told me a lot of interesting things when he was working at Marvel, as well as working for Todd McFarlane. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's fun. And where was I going with this? Well, anyway, there's a strong focus in comic books, and it's a good Sorry,
We had a feisty
derailed.
moment.
my train of thought derailed. Hey, I tell you, I fucking word salad myself. It doesn't help the fact that Tabitha is like trying to crawl around my lap and go behind my computer or whatnot, being kind of a general pest like she normally does.
Oh, Tabitha.
Yeah, she's a great cat though. Let's see here. I'm sorry, Feisty. I kind of interrupted. Continue.
Oh no, that's it. I'm done.
Okay.
I step off my soapbox.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, there's some guys I've met and they weren't all that cool. It was the dude that drew the cover for Silk back when there was that big controversy. I don't remember the guy's name. He was kind of a dead fish. He wasn't all that.
What cover? I actually enjoyed Silk.
It was the initial cover where it was back before Marvel went SJW. It was where they were receiving a lot of criticism. You had the Milo Manera cover, and then he drew the Silk cover, and you had like people redrawing it, and he got a lot of shit for what he drew.
Are you sure it wasn't the Spider-Woman cover?
Maybe it was Spider-Woman. So I met him.
Oh yeah. I remember now.
And he just, it was like he just didn't want to be there. And it was like right after, there was that big controversy over the Spider-Woman cover.
The one where she's like crouching and her ass is up, like in the air.
No, that was Milo Manera. That was Milo Manera. It was the other guy. Anyway, like I said, I can't remember his name.
Unimportant, but anyway.
Here. What do you guys think of Nick Spencer taking over Amazing Spider-Man?
Well, like I said, going back to, I had to read Superior Spider-Man because I wanted to know what was up. I also read Superior Foes of Spider-Man, and he did that. So if he can like capture the essence of that, I have not much, but a little bit of faith.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much, like, it's not that much, but it's like maybe like if, like I said, if he can capture some of that essence, I'm like, okay, but I'll probably pick up issue number 1, then I'll see.
Yeah,
I'm definitely wanting to check it out.
Yeah, I'll check it out for car accident value. I'm so down. I'm with Nerd Wonder. I might be okay. Since One More Day, Spider-Man's my favorite superhero. I own up to a certain point every Spider-Man comic, and I'm talking foreign issues. I'm OCD with the collecting. Okay, I know it's very bad for a shop owner, but I was able to temper it for most of the time. So yeah, I have full runs of every Spider-Man title with every variant, every misprint. Yeah, I'm missing a few, but they are weird issues. I stopped at 600, and I really stopped reading regularly after One More Day. One More Day pissed me off to no end. And I had to sell that crap in the store, which sucked. Because if somebody asked me directly, I'm all, it sucks, don't buy it, but thankfully some people didn't. But no, I'm not excited at all. To short answer to that question, I'm not. Spider-Man's been kind of ruined for me, and then it wasn't all One More Day. A Superior Spider-Man kind of ruined it some more, and just Dan Slott put the nail in the coffin for me. So I read other things now. I spend my money on other things. I put a top on my collection. I'm like, cool, 600 is good. I'm good right there. I don't need to get any more. And I'm happy with what I have, and not getting any more. I'm just out. I don't. If you support things, I'm an obsessive collector and completist as well. But if you support crap, it's gonna keep coming. So you got
right.
And, yeah, and that's another thing too. Is I know there was somebody that no longer works at our shop that would give people grief for taking things off their pull, and I'm like, why are you doing that? You're disheartening people. It feels like you're judging them. If the story or the art is not doing something for somebody, don't talk to them like that.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. They're spending their money here. If they're not, they might pick something else up that they'll add, but never the fact that they're choosing our store to have a subscription with, it says a lot about their loyalty.
Yeah.
Why are you disheartening that?
Yeah, that's not cool. Really quick, I want to address Robert Willing's question. No, he didn't tell me about the whole thing with Venom Dark Origin. What he did tell me is that when he was working for Todd, that he really wanted to draw Spider-Man, and Todd gave him the spiel about you're not going to have any creative control over at Marvel. It was very interesting to see that perspective of, for the most part, editorial runs the show, and you may want to do something, and editorial is going to constantly shoot down. Now, the reason why he ended up leaving Image and Spawn is because, like I said, he wanted to draw Spider-Man. He did his time, and then he may have mentioned Venom Dark Origins, but I may just not remember it. But he left to go do his own thing. So he's been trying to do his own books. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. He hasn't been to Alamo City Comic Con. I've been hoping he was here like the last 2 years, but he hasn't. So hopefully maybe this year he'll show back up again.
But as a retailer standpoint, with Nick Spencer being on the Spider-Man, a lot of people did not take to Secret Empire and his cap run well. So with that said, seeing his name on a beloved character probably not gonna like have a draw to it, so to speak. It's not a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, I want to read. Will probably have huge order for #1, and that's it.
And maybe he could turn it around. You know, maybe that was editorial. I don't know the whole story behind Secret Empire. It sounded like he was enjoying it quite a bit, though, to be honest with you. And yeah, the hubris Marvel showed over the last year, just like not hubris, being obnoxious. They were freaking obnoxious with. I think
it is hubris. Yeah, because I've been told by the guy that runs my shop, or I wouldn't say run, the guy I talked to at my shop, Marvel for the most part doesn't fucking care.
Yeah, they don't.
They will do whatever the hell they want, and obviously, they kind of fuck the stores over, and they know that if you are a completist, you will buy Spider-Man, whether it's good or it's shit. So there is no effort. And obviously, things are turning around because the sales have plummeted so much with Marvel. But they know fans will fucking buy shit. But yeah, I think that's changing though.
Yeah, Feisty would know more than me, but
yes.
Just from me being a completist, I stopped. I stopped Cap. I stopped Iron Man. I continued Thor, so I was part of that. I didn't read all of them though. That's how bad it is. I would for that. There was like 2 years I wasn't reading, but I was buying comic books to keep my collection going. I'll always go back and read them and stuff. But
well, the thing that sucks about Thor is that Jason Aaron is a good writer, and when he was writing real Thor, it reflected, even with like Generations, the way he wrote Thor was great, and then Jane Foster Thor shows up, and you can tell that he doesn't care about this character. He's doing it because of editorial. That's my personal take on it.
I think you're right. I don't know where on high this came from. I don't know if it's Disney or Kevin Feige or Ike Perlmutter. I doubt it, but I doubt it's Ike Perlmutter. But yeah, it doesn't sound like Marvel is as autonomous as they say they are.
They're not.
Pixar over here used to be very autonomous. Like Disney used to never mess with them, and that has completely changed now. They're fully in charge. So I'm sure the same happened with Marvel.
Okay. So how long, Feisty, how long have you been running a shop?
For about 1.5 years now.
Okay. So you basically been there when the heart of SJW Marvel has basically taken over.
Yeah, and Marvel sales are shit. I can just tell you that now.
How's that affected your shop?
We just order conservatively. Like I said, with me coming in and putting everything in digitally, it helped with the owner be able to order less of instead of having like 15 to 20 books in the back issue or having to put some on eBay just to move it, maybe 1 or 2. So it's like it'll sell through the rotation of the week. But yeah, no, when people started taking it off their pull, we stopped ordering it. So it's not so much as so we didn't, you know, we were probably survived due to conservative ordering. But that being said, that helped me branch out into indie books. So I, you know, with reading previews and seeing creator-owned things come out of writers that I've really enjoyed that wrote, you know, Jeff Loveness, for instance, one of my favorite writers, because I love Groot. Groot is like my spirit animal. Love the talking, whatever. But reading his 6-shot Groot series, the second issue brought me to tears. It was that moving. He handled the content really well. So I'm like, okay, So then I picked up his Nova run, and it was really well done too. The issues didn't sell well, but for the content, it was good. So I saw him, he was working with Aftershock on World Reader, read that. Happened to be one of my favorite artists on that book, which is Juan Doe. So I pushed that. Seeing him write Judas, you know, I push that. We sell like 25 to 30 copies of Judas because, you know, I'm like, hey, this is a really good writer. Give him a chance. So it's helped us kind of balance, I guess. So we order stuff that's creator owned more heavily because I, you know, can push that more instead of being like, oh, you know, and same thing goes with new readers that come in. I'm like, oh, you know, I have spend a couple moments getting to know them, what they like. Then I can steer them in the right direction of something they might enjoy. And the great thing for me right now is people raving about Donny Cates, his Thanos run, his Doctor Strange stuff. And I'm like, hey, if you enjoyed this, you should read God Country because it is fucking fantastic. The art is great. The writing is great. So being able to push other works, you know, other comics on somebody because they're enjoying the writing on another one makes me happy. We make more money. Everybody is happy. So, yeah. I mean, it's just how you, at the end of the day, you know, you want to be nice, but at the same time, you know, the retailers are there. They need to make money to survive. So knowing the content, knowing the good writers, being able to go in their backlog, reading some of the other stuff they write, Baby Teeth, Redneck, stuff like that, that he is actually writing that's great with the supernatural because people are enjoying his Doctor Strange run. Ordering more, back ordering, getting second prints of those books in. That is where is offsetting the dip in Marvel. So if, you know, that's what I would suggest.
What has been the fan reaction when you started having a lot of the SJW nonsense showing up in Marvel books? I mean,
oh yeah, people take it off their pull.
Did they tell you a lot? Or, you know, were you getting a lot of, I won't say you getting a lot of backlash, but did you see a lot of backlash to Marvel? Obviously they're dropping the books, but did they say why they were dropping them?
Yeah, because it's bad. Like people are like, I'm just not enjoying it. It's pretty bad. Like I tried to hang on as long as I could, but that's the kind of reaction I'm getting. Cause I'll ask, oh, why are you taking this off? I'm not enjoying it. I don't really need to get into detail after somebody says they're not enjoying something. Okay. That's good enough for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is from Switchpoint. I've been sitting on this for a while. Is there certain comics, certain groups, genders, ethnicities that people prefer?
I'll get.
Yeah, I'm like, Nerdrotic, you take this.
Yes. There you can profile a little bit. It's not across the board, but okay. So my manager was gay. I'm in San Francisco. Lots of gay people. Okay. Right. It's part of life here. And
it is.
Guess what?
Fair enough.
They're freaking people just like everybody else. Pretty awesome. And they love comics and they love X-Men. They love the X-Men and they love Robin and Nightwing. Those are 3 titles that are any X-Men title. Robin, Nightwing. I could profile to a gay customer. Sorry, but but other than that, no, I think it's more just you know, it's not even DC Marvel, and you've seen this, Feisty. There's a group, there's like DNC. I hate to bring him up so much, but DNC likes his soldier books, right? So he likes G.I. Joe and some Punisher stuff. He likes the ground street level superhero. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some people prefer street level over
that's how
powerful people.
That's how I profiled. So it was more of a personality thing than just ethnicity or sexual orientation. It was more of, you know, I like Daredevil, I like Spider-Man, and it's that type of person who doesn't like the fantasy books or the galactic books, or, you know, or yeah. So it's ridiculous that there isn't too many comic fans who just love everything across the board. I might have been one of the few. I liked all my DC and Marvel and my fantasy books and, you know, everything. I liked everything. That's why I felt I did a good job owning a store, because I had a broad taste, and you kind of have to have that. Just on a side subject, for how a store succeeds is having somebody like Feisty, or an owner who just loves talking about comic books all the time. And like Feisty could probably just talk about comic books all the time. So she's getting paid to do something she would do naturally. And that's kind of how I felt too. I don't know if any of you out there saw High Fidelity. It's a great movie with John Cusack.
Oh, yes.
Record store.
God, I love him.
Oh my God. And there's this one scene where he's like, he puts on some music, and I forgot what the song was now, but he's like, I'm going to sell 5 of these today. And he puts on the song. And he sells 5 of them, and that's what would happen in the comic store. But it'd be natural, you know, like you said, talking about God Country. You'd be talking about God Country to somebody else, and you would sell 2 titles to a dude walking back. But to dial it back, sorry, to profiling, is there a certain customer other than my like every one of my gay customers getting Robin, X-Men, and Nightwing? It was more of a personality thing. Like what kind of, like how far you're willing to I can't think of the word right now. Oh my God.
You're fine.
Word saladed myself. How far you're willing to, your imagination is willing to go. Some people can't do the Groot Rocket Raccoon thing, you know, and it's a lot easier to just take the Punisher. There's some people who hated superhero books that came in my store. I don't know why.
Well, when I was younger, I didn't go for superhero books. I was really big into Dark Horse. The only superhero I'd say I was really interested in was Ghost Rider when I was, you know, in my late teens, early 20s. But I loved fucking Terminator and Aliens and Predator. I loved the Dark Horse.
They were so good.
They were so good.
Some of the first digital colored comics they were.
Yeah.
By Colorcraft out of San Diego. Sorry, useless information there, but a buddy of mine used to color Alien versus Predator, which I freaking loved.
Yes. Oh man, the original run of Alien versus Predator. Oh my God, that is such a good book, and I'm so pissed they fucked that movie up.
I know. Ugh. Still mad about that one. But we have the comics.
Okay. You know. Let's see. Kind of moving on. This, I think I kind of already asked this, and if I have, just let me know. What keeps your shop in business? I know you talked about the comic aspect. Do you diversify with toys, games, cards, etc.? Feisty.
Yeah, we do your Friday Night Magics. We do Yu-Gi-Oh, we do Pokemon. We have an actual huge D&D following, so we stock up on miniatures, we stock up on paint, we stock up on books, playmat, everything you would need to run a game. You can get, you know, one-stop shop. Collective. We actually have a huge toy collectors community in our town, so we cater to just about it. So having people pre-order Sideshow toys is actually helpful because we're not sitting on product. So advertising that we take pre-orders for just about anything, and like pops are still big, which I don't know, to me I'm like they kind of did their dues, but when people see that like previews exclusive pops, we'll take pre-orders for that, so people are guaranteed their pops that they want. Yeah, so we cater to just about all your nerdy needs. So that's how we stay afloat.
Diversifying.
Awesome.
Diversifying.
Yes.
Diversifying.
I am an action figure collector too. If you've ever seen my videos, I do show my face. It's not a very good face, but in the background there is a bunch of toys on my wall.
I know, I saw that, dude. That's fucking fantastic. Behind me, I have my wall of Legos.
Nice.
Yes.
I have PTSD from Legos because I have children walking in their rooms in the middle of the night and barefoot.
Oh God, no,
Very
thank
painful.
you.
You
Very
poor
painful.
bastard.
Yeah, ouch. No, yeah, I love me some action figures. I'm a huge fan of like 90s Toy Biz, but I had every action figure under the sun in my store. Every square inch of wall space was covered. I only had 1,000 square feet. Okay, so I didn't have a ton of room, and I had stuff on the ceiling. I had stuff everywhere. I had stuff in the bathroom. It was nuts. So yeah, I sold action figures. I didn't get into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic. I should have, but I needed somebody to do that for me because I knew dick about it. Not that I just didn't have time. I spent my time reading comic books. I was like Feisty. I read, 5 to 7 every day for 10 years. And that was more than what I read when I was a collector. So yeah, it was just toys. I did it with toys. And for up until 2013 that worked. I don't know if that would have worked beyond that though.
Yeah.
All right.
I see. It's funny because the people that buy for some reason I have the magic touch. So when anybody comes up and says, "Oh, I need to buy," that like a few of them are like, "No, you pick," because I'll usually pick a card with a mythic. I don't even know what that means, but I know that that's a thing. So usually people will buy 3 or 4 packs for me because they're like, "No, you have the magic touch." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, here you go. Have fun."
Need to go to Vegas.
I know. I've never been to Vegas as an adult, so I need to go.
What? Yeah, you need.
It's
to.
okay. It's Vegas. I've been there. I was there last November for a conference, and it is just one huge fucking spectacle. That's all it is.
See, I think I would go for food and shows. Like, I like my money, and I know what I like buying. So if I know that I might lose my money, I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm like, no.
Yeah, Vegas is like a good convention or Coachella, or it's who you go with. I mean, if you're there with a good group of friends, it's fun. Yeah, if I went there on a conference, I'd probably freaking hate it too. It's a cool concept. He's working on it, but it's called the Millennium Fandom Bar. It's by the Stratosphere, and it's a nerd bar. So think a sports bar except with comic books, and they do they show at the time they were showing Legion and Game of Thrones there. They were doing viewings. They played D&D and a full-on bar. So he's still rough around the edges, but great concept. I don't drink, so I was in there just talking about comics and while my wife was getting drunk. But if you're ever in Vegas, check it out.
I might have to do that.
Yeah, Millennium.
Yeah, word salad. If I'm ever there again, I'll have to go check that out.
Awesome.
Okay,
Definitely.
so this one is maybe going to be an odd question. So a few years ago, BuzzFeed did this video where there's this chick in this comic store, and she's basically harassing a guy, and she's like, are you buying that for your girlfriend? Stuff like that. So I've always heard that women get harassed in comic shops, like, hey, what are you doing here? Are you buying that for your boyfriend? Stuff like that. I was curious, how prevalent is that? I mean, I've never witnessed anything like that personally, and I don't know how widespread that actually is, if it's just something that has happened but people over exaggerate. I mean, what, as a woman working in a comic shop, I mean, have you experienced anything like that? Dudes like, what the fuck are you doing here, kind of thing?
So I used to work at GameStop, EB Games. I experienced the harassment more there than I ever have shopping or being in a comic book shop. The one that I currently work at now that I've been going to, but the one that I used to go to, I would get passed over. I would get my eye there. They would roll their eyes out. And I even called them out. I'm like, I'm here to spend money. So do you want my money or don't you? Because I can spend my money somewhere else. But I am the type of person that doesn't put up with stupid shit. So right. I'm like, no. So, and we, you have a spiel that you say to you greet a customer, ask them if they're looking for anything, not leave them alone until they ask you for something else. I'm the type of person that especially in a place that's very visual and it's very visually stimulating. It's a little overwhelming going to some place like that anyway. So you don't need somebody harassing you or doing anything that's going to keep them from spending money at your store. And generally people that you have, and I heard this said before, you have to kind of seek out a local comic shop. There's got to be something in there that you're after. So if I can help them find it, great. If not, and they just kind of want to explore and find things by themselves, whatever. But I would never harass someone at like, I mean, if you say, oh, like if someone picks up something, I'm like, oh, that's really good. That's about it. I've been on the, like I said, working at a game store, I was harassed more. People would stay there for like hours trying to talk to, I mean, I'm also, I like making money, right? I'm not above exploiting my feminine wiles to make $1. So wearing a little bit of a low cut shirt, more like with GameStop, you had specific directives from upper management, from district managers of meeting a certain number of pre-orders for games, GMR subscriptions, whatever. That's how I got them, by being like, oh, like being flirtatious. But after a certain point, it got old. I'm like, okay, like, dude, I gotta work. I can't sit here and talk to you. I actually have to process like this shipment of like, $175 games or 175 game, so it's just I think it all depends on how you are with people, or how you work with people, or how you interact with people, that you can come off as nice, but being like, hey, I actually gotta work. Let me know if you need anything. So, but I have heard horror stories too. So, but like I said, I've never really experienced that. If I do, I call it out. So
that's
Nerdrotic.
good.
Yeah. So Nerdrotic, I mean, did you see any of that going on? Did you hear anything about that? I mean,
I never saw anything in my store. And when I was shopping, I was too focused on comic books to notice, but over the 10 years I owned the shop, I had 7 employees. 5 of them were women. Okay. So had a lot of girls. I'm a capitalist. Okay. And had a lot of girls in my comic shop. It was really good. And
makes sense.
Yeah. And they weren't all like lifelong nerds. You did have to pass a test to work at my store, a basic test.
Good.
You had to know who Jack Kirby was. I made people answer questions. But they would get the worst stories I heard is when I wasn't there. When I was there, everybody was nice. But when I wasn't there, collectors would go in and try to take advantage of them, try to, get some of the higher price books, talk them down and pull that kind of bullshit. And I my girls knew their shit and they could stand their ground. So that was always good. But that's the one, the one thing I noticed when I was there, it wasn't harassment. It was when a girl would walk in, and this was customers, this wasn't my employees, excuse me. Like a conversation would stop, they'd be in the middle of a conversation, it would stop, and it would just be really awkward. And it would make the customer feel awkward. It's like, guys, act naturally. Come on. It's just a girl. So there's still some of that. But yeah, I think it was more just fear than, but I know it happened. I know some customers try to come in, some of the collectors to take advantage of the female employees. The actual harassment I have witnessed, I'm sorry, I cannot say names, has been at parties at Comic-Con with pros. That's the
really?
harassment. Yeah, that's the harassment.
I'm not surprised. I've heard about it, but
oh yeah, to men and women.
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be surprised. I mean, a lot of that too. I mean, I've heard stories about various things, like, when you're there at 3 a.m. and people are drinking, some people might assume certain things, and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me, at least. But out of curiosity, did either one of you see that BuzzFeed video? It came out maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
No, but I'm
going to watch it now.
Yeah, I'm like, after this, I'll probably find it and watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I laughed at it because it just was kind of absurd. They occasionally, as much as BuzzFeed is complete fucking trash, occasionally they'll do something kind of funny. Like, it was like women street harassing men. Hey, you look like a keeper. Want to go meet my parents? I mean, it's shit like that. It's absurd. And I know what they're trying to like push their agenda, but it was, it came off. It was kind of cheeky and funny, even though it was fucking retarded as hell.
It was, because most guys wouldn't care. Yeah. Come on, meet your parents. Sure. But yeah, I get it. And it might, the thing is, 3-4 years ago, that might have been an original idea. Maybe, I don't know. It's pushing it, but there've been so many since then that are just so cringeworthy. So I know what you're talking about, but yeah, it's, I don't think, I mean, I'm not a woman, so like I said, the dudes were on their best behavior when I was around. And I was the boss, so everybody was on their best behavior. It's so weird, by the way, being a boss. It's bizarre. I never really saw myself that much, but yeah, but it's I guess it's there. It's definitely, if Feisty has seen it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I'm a dude. It's like clearly I don't get harassed at comic book shops, and there was something I've always been curious about because I've never seen it, and I'm sure it happens, but I was just curious about how bad is it really.
I mean, the one thing that I see a lot is new customers or people that haven't come in a while see me and I'm a new face or whatever, and they'll come up and start asking me questions and seeing if I know something. But my favorite is like to outschool them. So it's like, oh, okay, she knows her shit, right on. So yeah, so I see it as like a test for that, but if not, I'm like, I'll just, I won't even try. If I don't know something, I'll be, you know what? I have not read it. I have not delved that far. Hey, could you, tell me about it? So then it's not like it's like, oh, I'm curious. Hey, this is something I don't know. Tell me more. So I can usually diffuse any awkward situation by just, I've been in retail for forever and I don't know, I'm good at it. So I'm good with people. I like working with people. My background is in insurance. So having to calm people down that are upset, filing claims, it's just something that I've always been good at, is diffuse awkward or weird situations. So
yeah. A few years ago, I was a consultant, and I actually became good friends with one of the individuals I ended up was teaching stuff to. And she's a very interesting character. We kind of hit off. We had very similar personalities. We're into the same music, into technology. And so she has like this degree in optical physics. I mean, really fucking smart girl. And she's been through some pretty crazy shit. And we've talked about it. And she's always, and she wasn't complaining, but she talks about, it's like, there's times where I have to go in, and there's like that test your geekdom or test your knowledge, because when you're a chick walking to a field that has been primarily dominated by men, I do think that there is a bit of, I would say I'm threatened, but you're an outsider. And we both kind of swap stories, because as a consultant, I ran into that too. It's like one of the guys that I worked with where she was at was like constantly testing me on stuff. And it wasn't until I was able to solve one of his problems where it's like, okay, you're cool. So I don't just see that happening with women, but it's like anybody who is perceived as the outsider, I think gets that treatment. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You gotta earn the respect.
Yeah. See, and that's what blows my mind. Like if any retailer, just anybody, just has someone that's new to whatever, instead of like, well, whatever, like, hey, you're wanting to get it. Let me hold your hand. Let me guide you. I always joke about this with customers in the store. I'm like, I can show you the world. Like that's the type of personality I have. I'm like, you're new. Let me open the doors, my friend. So yeah, but that's just me. I don't, like I said, I don't try to judge on anybody on their level of knowledge, their level of interest, if they're casual, if they're lifelong. Like I said, you're handing me money for things. I'm gonna be nice to you. Yeah. So that's my mentality at the end of the day.
Totally. I think the for lack of a better term, the fake geek girl argument isn't as much as new fans. If you're a new fan and you're coming in with curiosity and humility and you're like, I want to know about this, rad, come on in. I think some of the clapback on the fake geek girls or guys, fake geek people, we'll just say, coming in wanting to tell us how it is, and that's basically some of the newer writers at Marvel. I think that's what led to a lot of this. It's like these new people came in and they came from backgrounds like some of the Marvel writers were successful in like YA and or Ta-Nehisi Coates was a journalist or something like that.
He wrote for the Atlantic or something like that.
Yeah, so they come in with their ego from the place they were at, where they were established, and they're like, "We're going to tell you how it is, comic people," and that's where the clapback. So, because at first I was like, whoa, easy on the fake geek girl stuff, that's just new fans, that's cool. Right. But the more I saw of it, it's like, they come in and they get a little preachy on me. It's like, I hate to sound like this guy, but I'm gonna, it's like, I've been reading comics for 40 years. 41 years. I've been, you know, I was sweeping around Pacific Comics for comic books, but when it was a store, okay, before it turned into the publisher that made Rocketeer and stuff like that. I was a little snot-nosed kid running around in there, and the owner hated me and wanted me to leave, but I wouldn't, because my mom left me there. So yeah, some of that, you know, I think it's good. Yeah, it's always good to be welcoming and bring the new people in. But you know, when the new people coming in think they're just going to change the industry and what we've been doing the last few years is wrong and we're racist, right, and it's been this big white club, which is total bullshit. I mean, it shows their ignorance, and we, you know, Comix Division and I Love Comics, you know, believe it or not, take the high road a lot of times. I see the crap that goes on Twitter. I don't partake in it, but you guys could go a lot lower than you do.
I try not to. That's the big thing. I mean, there's occasionally I kind of mock comments and I do funny voices. And even then, I wouldn't say I feel like I'm crossing a line, but it's like first off, when I do stuff like that, I don't want to drive harassment towards somebody. Yeah. I'm just going to make fun of them because their statement is dumb. You know, I don't try and shit on people. You know, I shit on their ideas and their comments because I don't know them. They don't know me. Let's not pretend like we do. But if you say something stupid, I'm going to call it out. If I say something stupid, I've had people call me out on my own channel. There's like this one guy, and we ended up having a really good conversation. But his first thing was like, "Your review is shit," and all this stuff. And I diffused the situation by, I mean, I could have very simply say, you know, you're fucking cunt.
Yeah, fuck you, go away.
But sometimes I like being challenged. It's because I am here to have a conversation with people. I don't want my channel to just be an echo chamber. And so I asked him, what did you like about the new Witchblade book? And so we started having a conversation. I said, and towards the end of it, I was like, we are not going to agree flat out. We have different tastes and stuff, and that's fine. Don't let my not liking the book ruin your enjoyment of it. And we just kind of left that. I mean, we communicate here and there. I don't know if you ever watched my second review. And I promised him, I was like, okay, I'll give the book another chance. And I fucking hated that one too. But the thing that sucked about it is that the writer of the book, she wrote Coffin Hill. And I fucking love that series. And she was came from the YA background, and it was kind of YA oriented, but it was really interesting. And I did enjoy it, but holy fucking shit, Witchblade is a goddamn train wreck.
And it is, and sometimes it is. And yeah, I used to preface that in my comic store. It's like, just because I don't like something doesn't mean it's not good. I mean, I'm not the end all be all, you know. I'm just I had enough money to buy a store. That's it. I got lucky. You know, I'm not like some comic elder or anything. You know, I owned a store for 10 years and I'm just a dude. And there's like, I had a couple customers who would just whoop my ass on Spider-Man. You know, I thought I was the man, but I got put in my place, but that's okay. You know, it's good. I had a conversation very similar to that over Star Trek Discovery on my channel, which I was ripping the shit out of, and then I ended up getting a subscriber out of it, so it was good.
Do you watch Red Letter Media at all?
Yes, I do.
Did you see the review? They did like 3 videos on Discovery. Did you see the last one?
Yes.
How did you ever think you lived long enough to see your like favorite franchises go down in flames?
Go down in flames. I know.
He's like, that's good. How do you feel to live long enough to see all your favorite franchises go down in flames? It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. I know. I wanted that. I want that on my tombstone. I lived long enough to see everything I love turn to shit.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a few questions I banked up here. So we have a softball question. Favorite comic ever, one issue.
Ladies first.
Sorry, I just got a text from somebody. So repeat the question.
Favorite comic ever, one issue.
Groot #2. Well, I mean, I know I love, but this is more recent. I mean, I love Wolverine. Old Man Logan issue, the McNiven and Millar run probably, but Groot #2, man, that spoke to my heart. Ugh. It's the story of how Groot and Rocket met, and it was just beautiful. It was so beautiful.
Oh my god, that is mean.
I know it's hard, right?
Oh, okay. If it's okay, I'm gonna go on the nose and kind of boring on this one, but this one like rocked my world when it came out. It was Marvel graphic novel, and this is an issue. It counts. X-Men: God Loves Man Killed. When I read that when I was 12, I was it was the first comic to almost get me choked up, and of course I wasn't going to tell anybody. I was a guy and I was 12 and I was in my room, like, you know, little tears coming to my eyes, like, oh, there's something in my eye, you know, like that comic moved me. It was the first comic that really moved me. And that's when I was kind of in it to win it with comic books. For one, being 12, and you know, that was such a great 1982 was like the best time for comics. Spectacular Spider-Man was probably better than Amazing Spider-Man. That's right when Black Cat was around and some of the Cloak and Dagger stuff was coming out. It was just such a great time. But yeah, God Loves Man Kills, man. That one was awesome. I know everybody's read it.
It's G.I. Joe: The Silent Issue, and I actually, when I was at Alamo City Comic Con and Larry Hammond was there, I actually tracked down that book, bought it to get him to sign it, and I told him, when I was growing up, I have a learning disability. I have a very difficult time reading. I'm a very slow reader. It probably takes me 15 minutes to read a comic book. It's pretty dreadful. Sometimes, not always. It depends if it's dialogue heavy. And I told him, growing up and loving comic books, I struggled to read them. And this was the first book that I could actually read with not having to struggle through it. And I had him sign it.
Aww.
That is rad. Yeah. I love
That's
that story.
awesome.
Yeah. This is
he's like, he asked me, he's like, is this the original one you have? I was like, no, unfortunately, all my G.I. Joe comics I had, they're gone now, but I specifically tracked this down and paid like $20 for you to fucking sign it. And I also commissioned him to draw me a Snake Eyes.
That's rad. Wow, this is why maybe this is why I connect with you so well. I am the exact same way. I have a somewhat of a learning disability, and it's the same thing. I have to read a comic 2 or so. Yeah, when I was reading that 5 to 7 comics a day, I was reading them 2 or 3 times. I have a comprehension problem. Always have had one. Yeah, yeah, comic books were the only thing I could read. I could not read books. It wouldn't stick. It took me a long time, and I had to go to, you know, a specialist, and I was able to get that figured out somewhat. But yeah, I know exactly what you're going through. It's tough. It's weird that we found comic books though. And yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we have another question here. Charles Soleil's Daredevil. What do you guys think of it? I haven't read it, so I don't have any comments.
That's like one of the Marvel books that I hear is good, but I haven't had a chance to read it. I kind of, being a completist, I missed an issue, so I gotta wait till I can get a hold of that issue before I can finish reading. But I did read the Legacy with the Bill Sienkiewicz cover, and I really enjoyed it. So, but I also got the comic just because of the cover. So yeah.
I know you're an art girl, so
I'm an art whore.
Yeah. Same. I am a completist. I own them, and I have not gotten up to reading them yet. I'm still catching up to Daredevil, to that. But Daredevil's my second favorite character, and I have a complete run. I'm still 2 years behind on Daredevil. So should I skip ahead? Sounds like I should skip ahead.
I'm really excited to see him write Hunt for Wolverine. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
I
I know he wrote the Death of Wolverine, and I was
so the first 2 issues were strong. They were really strong, and then it's just like I'm like, oh wow, this was really wow. Okay, well, he didn't get the send off that I would have liked, but meh.
Yeah. Okay, so back to my list of questions here. I know this is something we kind of briefly touched on last night with Englantine's stream. Let's talk about Diamond.
Do we have to?
Yeah.
How much longer do you guys have? Like, really?
I'd like to try and wrap it things up by 12:30 my time, which is like in 31 minutes. So
sounds good.
That's good. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead and start.
Sure. Diamond. The accidental monopoly. They're not as horrible as some people make them out to be. But it's how they start out. Okay, so they have zero competition. The reason they have zero competition is many years ago they bought out a company called Capital. There used to be multiple comic book distributors, and you could choose between the two. And
when was that? When was Capital around?
Oh, this was late 90s, mid to late 90s.
Okay. Okay.
Before I owned a store. When I owned a store, Diamond was fully in control by 2003. But I remember the shop I used to shop at. I used to drive her to the to warehouse once in a while, and we go pick up books, and it was like shopping. So you could buy extra stuff. It was a lot more free. So if you needed extra books, they would have extra in these. They'd have satellite warehouses that you can go pick up your books at, and if you needed extras, you pulled out extras, and it looked to me like a better system. Now, you know, if it wasn't for Final Cutoff, you know Final Cutoff, Feisty,
Yes.
FOC, don't get FOC. Yeah, you know me. FOC, they used to not have FOC. It used to be pretty bad before Final Cutoff. Final Cutoff is 2 weeks prior to a book's release. You are allowed to adjust your ordering. So a lot of shops, you know, like just buzz through their previews, and they don't have somebody like Feisty or me who would read every page of a preview. I mean, the big one and the Marvel one.
Bible, yes.
Yeah, the Bible, and like read every single word every month. And I would, you know, by the time I was done with my previews ordering, I'd start the next previews ordering. Some people waited to the last minute and just filled out everything. And then with the Final Cutoff, you could adjust your ordering with 2 weeks to go. Unless you miss it, then you're screwed. With Diamond, isn't going anywhere. And I think the direct market has it's eroded the comic industry. There's an argument to be made that it's extended the life of something that was dying and would have gone away completely. And I could see that argument a little bit. But I think it's more eroded it by the direct market just going to comic books. It's created a stagnant industry. Okay. So because Diamond doesn't innovate, and it's the only place comic shops can go. So for the longest time, I don't know what their software is like now, but it was like 1994 DOS. That's what we were dealing with. Right?
Oh, it's still pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's probably just an advanced.
It's like a little bit upgraded. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a layer over an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. Yeah, it's not super interactive, user friendly. They only have. It seems like they only have like 10 people working there. And you know the credit lady's Maria Gallia. I don't know if she's still there. Maria Gallia.
Yeah, who's bipolar, and basically you'll get your shit depending on how she feels that day.
Oh yeah, don't leave your credit card number with her. She will charge it twice all the time.
All the time.
Yes. So yeah, they have a very small staff. Their owner is a rich fat cat who's super aloof and a collector. So he basically does this to fund his collection. He's always bragging about these. Yeah, he was always bragging about the comics he buys. But
my boss knows him.
They bought a huge. So all your comics are printed somewhere else. They go to a giant warehouse in Tennessee where they have contract workers, and that's why some of the comics look like shit now. Because they're on these giant conveyor belts, and they're coming, you know, and they're, you know, again, these are hourly workers who are temps. So they don't give a shit about comic books. So your comic books are coming in worse and worse. Yeah, you know, I could go on and on. Diamond is bad for the industry because they don't allow it to innovate, to make a long story short, in my opinion.
Okay,
I would have to agree. And the quality of so being in this retailer group, I'm in both the DC group and the Marvel group. So seeing pictures of books come in like, hey, I just got these books, what's the deal? You know, it's really disturbing because there's people in the store that'll buy stuff off the rack, but they'll go like 3 or 4 deep to get the most pristine copy. And then there's the people, but to get like every single issue that week damaged, it's the quality of their packing, the fact that I saw a little bit of the over shipping when I first started, and then and then my boss would call screaming saying like, I didn't order this fucking, but you better, I'm sending these back, you better fucking credit me back, it pretty much you hit a lot of the stuff already, but and their customers, like hearing my boss on the phone with them, it's ridiculous. And sometimes not getting a shipment or getting a shipment late. It's like, do you want it to put us out of business? Do you, like we need,
Oh, hang on. Let me interrupt real quick. So we've always hear about people talking about Marvel over shipping stuff. Now, is that actually Marvel or is that Diamond doing that?
It's Marvel.
Where they overship?
It is Marvel, and you cannot opt out. It just happens, and they charge you for the shipping. And yes, if you bitch, you get a credit, but it's 2 or 3 weeks later. And some shops are living bill to bill. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but like some shops are. So some shops don't have a choice. With the overshipping, that used to drive me nuts. And the late shipments, that's the one that made me double nuts because that's not returnable. So if you miss a Wednesday, you're screwed. You missed your biggest day. And some guys, as loyal as they are going to go to other shops to get their stuff. They're not going to wait a day. Yeah,
like we with the new ownership transition of our shop, we've missed out on 2 weeks of new books. So it's been really rough. But a good thing, a lot of people are like, I'm like, hey, I'm really so we're going to give them two free books off their poll next week. But you know what I mean? Like, we're trying to compensate as best we can. But a lot of the people are just like, oh, no, the location's staying open. That's okay. So a lot of people are okay as long. But yeah, having someone there that's a familiar face saying, hey, really sorry about it. New ownership, new transition. We're doing the best we can, and being honest about that, saying, hey, XYZ happened. But but seeing like people come in and having to tell them it makes the new owners look a little incompetent, which I can and see where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, like, we were closing the store a week ago and now 2 gentlemen came in and where's the superheroes? Like, shit's, not everything's going to be 100% okay. So,
So my store has only missed 2 days, and it was usually because of like natural disaster. When Houston got hit by the hurricane last year, that was like the one, they were delayed like 3 days. Nobody in town got books, mainly because the main distribution hub in Houston was hit. The big ice storm this year that we had in Texas delayed everything too. So other than that, usually it's pretty clockwork with their stuff.
They're pretty good. I mean, the late shipments were rare, but in 2013 it was bad because they were transitioning to that huge warehouse. Was it 2012 or 13? They were transitioning to that huge warehouse, so like stuff was coming in late. And well, even in the transition, the sales transition for my store, I got doubled up on the new owner's books, and they billed me. And because the new owners, I totally feel their pain. They're probably going through the whole Diamond transition, and Maria Gallia probably forgot to file their paperwork or something like that. She is a character, that one, but she's not a bad person. She's actually
bipolar.
Yeah, she stuck her neck out in the line for me a couple times when we had hard times. And then I've been yelled at by her on the phone. So I totally know.
I've said that, but but like I said, like I mentioned this on another stream before. A lot of the I think Diamond's also feeling the effect of what sales are like on new books, because my old boss got an email from Maria bitching about how like we're not a storage house, we're just going to start charging you for books, blah blah blah. So it's like trying to collect this debt that they've been not. And my boss was like, hey, I'm not supposed to be getting this, but you probably should see who you're sending these to. So I think that Diamond is kind of maybe starting to feel like the trickle up system of what other smaller shop, and they don't cater to the smaller, to the smaller shops or to the people with not very large. Like, we probably average about 10 to 15 boxes from Diamond a week. Like, I don't know what your orders were like, but you know, that's yeah. So that's general, but like anybody smaller, they, you know, is probably feeling the hurt of, you know, not, I don't know, they're ordering heavy on something or not, but you know, not ordering books on your as like, oh, well, why is your order low? You know, and I'm sure they're starting to feel if they're sending blast emails to customers on the same email about paying their debts or you know, getting stuff, or or if you have a reorder and they put like 3 special orders in an oversized box instead of just sticking it like, that's another thing that bugs the shit out of me is like causing more boxes by having 1 or 2 like trades or 1 or 2 issues in a full size like the smaller Diamond box, the ones with the handles. Like it's just like, why? But then it's like, oh, they're making more money on shipping. There you go.
Yep,
so
that's it. They'll put a variant in a box that put another variant in there. But that's the shipping hub in Tennessee too. They don't have the time to actually think about that stuff. They just want to get it out. And yeah, they're not thinking about the smaller stores. As a matter of fact, Diamond's always had the ear of the big boys, you know, the Midtown Comics and you know, a couple shops in LA that are ginormous. That I won't name. And Brian here in San Francisco, the guy who bought my shop, he's got their ear. He, you know, because he's been around, he's made a name for himself and he's done very well. And he's a force for good for retailing. Rough around the edges guy, but actually a nice guy. But yeah, Diamond, because they have no staff, they can't do the things they need to do. I honestly don't know how they're surviving what's been going on, because if your comics aren't selling, then you can't buy merchandise. The comic discount, I won't blab it over the air here, but it's good. It's really, really good. Most merchandise, if you work in a retail store, I worked in retail all my life too, record stores. Your average markup is 30 to 35%. Okay. Comics is a better discount than that. I'll just say that. So it allows you the freedom to buy toys and stuff. And Marvel DC's discount is bigger than Image and Dark Horse by percentage points, but it's bigger. And the more you buy, sometimes you get a little more off. And if you buy everything on the initial previews order, you get a bigger discount than reordering it and yada yada. So there is incentive. They do try to work with retailers on the discount, and that's why things aren't returnable. I think a lot of retailers would give up 5%, maybe even 10, if they could return
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yeah, and I think that would help. And you know, Englentine talked about it. I know some people don't like it, but the Alterna Comics pulp thing, I always was told, because I asked this in a retail summit, like the second year I owned a shop. I'm like, why don't we just go back to pulp? And I was told that pulp was basically from newspaper printers, and there were these giant machines that they don't use anymore, so it's not really cost effective. And then Alterna comes out and says, no, we can still use it, and it's cheap. So like, there's no excuse. And they have to print, they print comics in Indonesia sometimes. Like, your comic books are coming from like another continent. They used to go to Canada, but now they're going to Indonesia.
Holy shit.
Indonesia, sorry. And yeah, so they're I don't even know how the hell they get here so fast, but that's where they're printing comic books. Wouldn't it be just cheaper to print them on pulp?
And the fact with Alterna is they offer direct. Like, you can actually go to Alterna Direct and they'll ship everything. Yeah, you can, as a retailer, or if you want to carry Alterna comics in your store or whatever, they offer direct. So you can actually go to them directly instead of ordering from Diamond, which I think is great. And they actually, I think, offer you a little bit more incentive, if I recall correctly, because I know the new owners just opened an Alterna account. So they're like, yeah, no. And we actually have a nice Alterna fixture because, you know, we're supporting a company that puts out pretty decent material, and the price point is pretty damn good. So
yeah, I'm instantly in love with them. I just started a poll at another store recently, and it's because of your channels and, you know, and getting me into comics again. And a lot of Alterna is going on my poll. Even though I'll probably have to, you know, I want to buy it through the store to support the store, but
no, I'm saying as like retailers can go.
Yeah, yeah, they can buy it. Oh, I love that. I love that. That is somebody trying, you know, like Marvel. Hello.
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm gonna wrap that kind of. I have 3 questions that are very similar, so I'm gonna wrap them all in one.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts on the future of the comic industry, and what do you think the impacts are going to be for the shops? And what are your thoughts on the comic industry as a whole?
I've been thinking about this actually because I was talking with a couple of customers in the recent couple weeks, and it like diversity in comics, like the big 2 have to remain healthy. Like they for anything for it to work, that Marvel and DC have to be healthy. DC I think is killing it. Like they're like, thank God for DC because our bills are paid. You know what I mean? Like I said, with the heavy volumes we sell of White Knight, Metal, just all like Batman, Superman, all their staples, like we're able to pay the bills. And trades too. We actually have a couple people that actually just have trades on their pull list. They just get trades whenever they come. You can do that, by the way. You can pre-order trades at your local comic book shop if that's the way you prefer to read it. So you can actually get a subscription.
I figured they did, but I've never done that.
Yeah, you can pretty much pre-order like anything that comes out periodically at your local comic book shop. But as far as I think it's going to take probably another good year to year and a half if people are getting into comic with the move the needle. We are seeing a small increase. It might not be huge to other people, but like $200 to $300 a week more in comic sales, whether it comes from back issues or trades or whatever's on the wall that people are listening or seeing reviews on and picking up. It makes a difference, but I think it's going to take a little bit to get, I hope it comes back. I think a shift to digital may happen sooner than a lot of people think, just because of how easy access iPads or tablets or even phones, with that. But I don't think that print will disappear necessarily because, people still buy books. So, but I think for it to become really healthy, Marvel better get their shit right with Fresh Start, because they're good. If that doesn't, they'll kill it. It'll die. It'll die a sad death. But that's just me personally.
My iPad is an overglorified comic book reader. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, I wouldn't say my prediction. What I see kind of going on, in a way, I feel mirrors what happened in the late 90s, early 2000s with the RPG industry, where you had a lot of RPG companies out there, and now for the most part it's Wizards of the Coast. There are some out there. I don't really know what they are anymore. White Wolf went away. Now they briefly come back where they start kickstarting stuff. Where I think the industry is going to be going is maybe doing what is happening now with RPGs, which is print on demand. What are your thoughts on that?
That's interesting. You know what? That's one I haven't even thought about. I think that's a possibility over digital. I always thought digital is a great aside with the tangible object, with the comic book. But digital, if it could pay the bills, it would have by now. And I'll nutshell it. If digital is too easy to pirate, so it's too hard to sell, and yeah, you can get out to more people, but you have to pay these comic artists. They barely pay them now. And I've never seen legit digital numbers. There's the Comixology ones, but Diamond has never released how many online comic stores are out there, much less digital numbers. And they do know them. I think if digital, listen, Marvel, I talked to a CEO at Disney, the CEO for D23. I was doing a little Star Wars video for him. I was doing some lighting with a friend, and it was it was about a year after the Marvel sale, and the words out of his mouth, and he was a friend of my friend, so he's very open about this. He said the sentiment with Disney is if they can get rid of Diamond, they would tomorrow night. And if they could get rid of comic stores, they would the day after that. Wow. They no interest in the comics at all. They understand that it's important, but it's not something they like or want. It doesn't make them enough money. It does, the entire industry makes what, $600 million, I think, last year. And that's probably a lot of bookstore sales. I don't know if I even believe that, to be honest with you. How many comic stores are there now? Less than 2,000 roughly.
Yeah.
There was, okay, so when I started my store, there was 4,000. So now
Wow,
there's half
holy
that.
shit.
There's half that in
That's huge.
Yeah, in 13 years. There's half that. So it's dying. It's dying. What's going to happen? My prediction, I love the print on demand, but I think it'll be more independent. My prediction is going to kind of go, and I was preparing for this with my store, and I am going to be opening another one. It was supposed to actually be opening in a couple months, and because of the state of the industry, I decided to wait another year. But I'm fully locked and loaded and ready to go. But my business plan was to survive without new releases. So I would be old school back issue store, like a vinyl store. So here in San Francisco, vinyl shops, little vinyl shops are doing great. Little, selling records and used CDs and stuff. They're doing great because there's a niche enough market, and they're not competing with big box stores anymore. They're all gone. They're not, there's nobody selling music anymore. The Virgin Mega Store went out from downtown San Francisco 8-9 years ago. So now they have people actually wanting to buy enough, and there's enough of them. You're never going to make a ton of money. And that's where I see the industry going back to where it started, which was this really weird niche market. Comic stores did not used to sell new comic books. Actually, technically, the first comic store was here in San Francisco, Gary Arlington, or San Francisco Comic Books. And he just sold what he had. He was part of the old Zap, comic scene and stuff. So that's where I see it going. It's always going to be around. I don't know if new comics are always going to be around. I think their days are numbered. And it's sad.
Yeah, it is. Which leads into another question I have about disruptive entertainment. The thing I always hear about the numbers back like in the 50s and 60s where comic books were selling in the millions. Of course, back then they were a nickel. When I was a kid, they were 30 cents.
Mm-hmm.
But is that what do you think is attributing to the decline of comic book readership? I think it's a number of things, but I think the huge one is disruptive entertainment. I've talked about consoles before, and the fact that in the 80s, yeah, you had the Nintendo, but not everybody had a Nintendo. Practically almost every household, and I'm speculating here, I'm probably overinflating this, but I think it's pretty commonplace to find a console in a home, and kids are playing more video games than they are reading comic books. So what are your thoughts on the impact of disruptive entertainment?
Ladies first.
I'm thinking. You go first.
Okay, I'll go. So I've got two kids, so I base it on one of them's very old. He's not a kid. And I got a 21-year-old and a 12-year-old. So, the 21-year-old hates comics because when he was young, all I did is make him work in the store. So he sees a box of comics, it's work to him. So he's like, black. So I can't really go on him. I'll go off my younger one who loves Spider-Man, but not enough to read a comic book. It's video games. Video games has always been the biggest competition to comic books. And I know there's a lot of gamers out there go, no, I like both. But ask yourself truly, like you're running out and getting that video game for $60 before you're going to get your pull. A lot of times that's the case. And by the way, for $60, you can buy your entire pull for a week or two.
Yeah.
But, it's a $1 billion industry compared to $100 million industry that's dwindling, and people are just reading less. And it's also, you can play your story, and that's hard to compete against.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm in the story. I'm part of the story. It's starting to actually dig into movies too. It took a while. It took longer than I thought, actually, but it's digging into film and television. How many kids, with YouTube's now the second most viewed thing on the internet. I heard that the other day.
I watch more YouTube than I do TV.
Yeah, me too. And my kids do. As a matter of fact, our TV's kind of forgotten about now. It's in our main room, and we barely turn it on. And I'm sure it's the same for other people out there and all the cord cutting and stuff. But yeah, video games. Not that it meant to hurt comic books, but it did, unfortunately. And it's kind of the natural progression. Like I said, it's an interactive story that you're part of. And it's hard to beat that. Also, the movies have done their share of damage too. I know people have said they help, but you know, now, God, a couple of people have mentioned this. I'm not making this up. I've heard this and I believe this, that now that you see a really good Marvel film, you've seen your heroes realized. Okay. So that's now a better version than the comics to some people, not to me, but to some people.
So Demonocracy makes this comment of comics are too expensive for kids. Comics are hidden in the back of shops instead of supermarkets. Comics aren't really aimed at families and kids anymore with all the adult subjects. Yeah, that is true. And
that is true.
Even my shop, the comic section is all the way in the back. And part of the reason why things were more geared towards kids was because of the comic book code of authority. And once the creators were basically like, fuck that, we're done with you, back in the 90s, things really changed. The industry did change a lot. And so, yes, you had the comic readers that were reading in the 70s and 80s growing up, and they wanted more adult-oriented stories, and they started getting them.
Yep. And they started selling, and it just, they never got out of that mode, or it took them a long time to get out of that mode of the Watchmen. You know, even Alan Moore has said it, the Watchmen Dark Knight Returns mode, where everything's got to be dark and which is good, but yeah, then they had to start making kids lines, which if you heard that back in the 70s when you're reading a comic, you're right, wait a minute, there's a kids line for this? What? You know, it's insane. And the problem is they weren't as good. they kind of half-assed the kids line. That doesn't help either. So yeah, he's right. They made them, they got lost. They ignored kids for too long, and then they tried to focus so hard on getting new readers. That's where we're at the state we are now. They're still chasing the new reader, and they're making books for people who don't read them now, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I completely agree with the I guess I kind of feel the same way, but so like I said, I started working at a video, started my retail gig in video game store, but after like playing as much as I did, and I don't know, it's just, I get more depressed and angry, especially with like the only video game I play is World of Warcraft. And that's because a camaraderie with my guild mates for 14 plus years. I've been playing the game with the same people for so long. It's like, I need to interact with my friends, but I kind of know, like, I'm like this, I'm spending too much time in front of a screen. And that's another reason why a lot of parents bring their kids in. They're like, I want them to do more than just sit in front of a, so I'm like, I commend the parents for that. And like we have a youth only D&D session where it's like, 17 and younger, like, and the parents love it. They're like, they're unplugging, they're socializing, they're honing some really good skill, you know what I mean? Like problem solving skills, using their imagination, like engaging more parts of their brain than sitting in front of a screen. And I always thank parents when they bring their kids. I'm like, thank you so much for, supporting this hobby and supporting your kids' love of read or art, but we also host once in a while, like create your own comic day. Like we try to do stuff with the community that engages them rather than just focus on, your generic comic book, you know what I mean? But we try to do stuff that engages the community rather than just cater to the pullers. So I guess I don't really see that so much, but I can see it. But that's what got me to stop with, because I'm like, I'm spending way too much time in front of a screen. And it was like, I was getting a little depressed from that. I'm like, I need to, and I love art. So, but I also got back into comics because of some health issues. And, I'm really limited on what I can do and for how long. So,
So Spike says, I strongly disagree since I grew up in the dark age reading comics. Maybe kids are more overprotective these days.
Oh, that I agree. Oh, yes.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's a happy medium there, but they aren't catering to kids though. They're not enough. And they, the kids can read the regular Spider-Man title now.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it goes in the weed. Well, especially the Marvel stuff lately with the politics, and they just. Yeah, I wouldn't have my kid reading it, but not for like any like sexual content or crap like that. I wouldn't want him reading some of the political tripe that's in them, to be honest with you. and my kid goes to the most liberal junior high on earth here in San Francisco. And yeah, I'm a centrist guy too, so I'm right down the middle. It's by the issue. So, and I wouldn't have been able to, you know, yeah, I've had to bite my tongue sometimes in San Francisco, definitely more than once. But I agree with some of the politics too. But yeah, as far as the kids, yeah, they didn't take the time to lure them in once they realized, oh shit, they're not reading them anymore. So let's make some kids line and put, you know, one of our B guys on it. And it's like, that's not how you do it, you know? Yeah. And it's too late. It's
yeah, it's too little, late. Too late. Yeah.
Well, I was making a joke about an Englentine stream the other night. It's like the way I view it when it comes to politics or whatever, it's like Catholicism and cigarettes. You gotta hook them while they're young.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. First one's free, kid. You know, maybe even do that.
So we're getting towards the end. Is there any kind of closing remarks? Anything that you guys would like to bring up before we close things out that we haven't touched on? Feisty?
Like I said before, if you really if you're finding yourself buying a book continuous, or you don't have a pull list, or you don't have a subscription, get one, because it's for retailers especially, it's reoccurring revenue, it's guaranteed sales. We really appreciate it, and usually comic stores will give you a kickback with like a discount, or you know, because they see you as a little bit more loyal, they'll be more apt to put gifts and stuff that's hard to find. You know, like we treat our subscribers a little bit better than your average in that respect, that you're taking the time to develop a relationship with your comic book store than anybody else just going in and pulling off the rack. So please start a subscriber list. It's really good for, you know, it makes a healthy store. It creates reoccurring revenue. We appreciate it. And we also, you know, give you a little discount. So if you want to save some money, start a pull list.
Yeah. Go in, you know, and if you, start a pull list. If you can't afford a pull list, because sometimes they have minimums, just go in and buy one comic a week. That much would help. And listen, I believe in meritocracy first. Every comic shop is on his own. They got to learn how to survive through these things. But here comes the big but. I think after the time that Marvel put the retailers through, I think it's on Marvel. The big two should do a retailer rescue program where they help supplement, or a subscriber program, help do something, and not just some bullshit lenticular covers or something where they're just going to make money off of. Actually, genuinely give them some incentive to help them, so the comic stores can build some savings. Hell, start a program to open, you know, find people to open comic stores. You know, like I'm out there. I'm going to do it in a year, but like try to find new owners. Do something like that. And you know, they can do that. They can do, you know, Facebook is running around helping newspapers right now. Marvel needs to do something like that. And comic shops, if you want to lure kids in, a little suggestion, birthday parties. I thought it was a dumb idea, and then I did one and did not regret it. So birthday parties.
Makes a lot of sense. There's a Lego store near where I live that does that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I might suggest that to my new owners.
They are good. They're very
okay. Would you guys like to pimp your wares? I know, Feisty, you don't have a channel. You can't exactly mention where you work at. Anything you'd like to add?
No, if you want to follow me on Facebook, or not Facebook, Twitter, Feisty Comic Fan, I post pictures of my collection, fun art. I'm always willing to interact with people. Anytime you have a question, hit me up. I'm more than happy to talk to people. So yeah, that's me.
That's awesome.
Or if you have a channel and you'd like me to come on, hit me up on Twitter as well. I really love engaging in this community. It's a welcoming and not as divisive as some people say. So yeah, hit me up. I'm there. Woo!
Yeah. I might hit you up for my channel. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Or I got to at least clone you when I open my store, because there needs to be more comic book employees like you. They're not all like you, trust me. Comix Division. Yeah, I leave Comix Division for the comic book critique. Please go to him. I do one in a blue moon, but my channel is the Nerdrotic channel. We do TV recaps and a live podcast every Friday night, 8 p.m. Pacific time, where you can join us and you guide the podcast. We cover shows like Mr. Robot, everything superhero, well, except for CW stuff. We don't cover that stuff. But like Legion, we're going to be doing Krypton. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So Nerdrotic channel, please check it out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate both of you coming on and discussing this topic. I feel like this is something that's very important, and it's something that I don't think anyone in the Comicsgate community has really had a chance to really talk about. I know that we've talked about what's going on in shops and in the industry, but I haven't seen anyone actually have anyone on to actually discuss the issues that they're seeing within the comic book stores. So I do appreciate you guys coming on and talking to me. Like I said, this is something I've been wanting to do for a while. And thank you, everybody watching the stream.
Yeah.
I appreciate your audienceship.
Switch Point, what's up?
Yes, I know there's a lot of new people. I did get a chance to say hi to. Thanks for stopping by. If you haven't checked out the channel, please do so. I am Comix Division on Twitter, not on the Facebooks. So until next time, enjoy your reads.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Comix
thanks, man.
Division.
This
Thank
was
you so
really
much.
good